weekend continues with the tradition of the Rolling Thunder of the NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour getting ready to qualify for tonight's main event, the headliners to the Granite State Derby. 175 laps in one of the most unique races of the year. Time to set time. Let's set the field for tonight's main event. And for all the action here, I was going to say side-by-side action, Joe, but they're certainly under the clock here for these two laps. Want to welcome the official voice of the NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour, Joe Koss, to the mic today.
Well, thank you, Andy. Good to see you again here. I know it was just a couple of short weeks ago we had the opportunity to watch these cars compete at one of the other JDV Productions events, and that was up at the NASCAR Speedway in Winchester, New Hampshire. You know, we're in the middle of a stretch of short track races. We kick things off down at the New Smyrna Speedway down in Florida as part of NASCAR Speed Weeks. What an outstanding event that really went down to the wire between Ronnie Silk and Justin Bonsignore. Took things over to the Richmond Raceway down in Virginia as part of the NASCAR Cup Series weekend on a Friday night. And then from there on out, it's been short tracks. We went to Monadnock Speedway. Last weekend, the tight bull ring on the tip of Long Island at Riverhead, and now a 3/8 mile racetrack here at Lee USA Speedway. And these guys are now into a rhythm of short track racing, and there's a lot of storylines on the line here tonight with that special Granite State Derby theme, Kentucky Derby feel in the air here tonight, and it's going to be a fun night for NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour racing and 175 laps of it. This racetrack is probably the most abrasive racetrack as far as tire wear goes that these modifieds are going to race on. And we haven't gone to North Wilkesboro Speedway, which we're going to do in September toward the end of the season, and I think that might trump it. But today, the abrasiveness of the racetrack is really going to put a lot of this race in the hands of the drivers and those who are smooth as silk, guys like Ronnie Silk,
yes,
who are on top of racetracks that are gritty like this, and that's what we're going to keep an eye on, who could manage their equipment and be conservative and save it for the end to be able to get that win tonight.
Now, last year we had a caution with 25 laps to go, and we had a field of cars that were up front. And you think with 25 laps to go on a third-mile facility, why would you pit for tires? Because you need to. Everybody came in, and we ended up with a pretty epic finish last year. But, yeah, you need to make that late race pit stop. Even though you've already changed tires once within the first 150 laps of this event, you have a total of 6 that you change, and you need all 6 of those tires. So you'll definitely see some comers and goers. You'll see we had some breakout stars here last year. I remember Jake Johnson getting the pole for last year and hanging with the top 5 for a good majority of the event. A guy like J.B. Fortin ran in the top 5 for a decent portion of the race. Didn't get the finish that his effort showed, but he looked pretty fast in practice today as well.
Yeah, some of the other cars that were quick in practice. Matt Hirschman led the way. No surprise to see Matt Hirschman at the top of the standings. I mean, he's been quick just about everywhere we go. He did not run last week at Riverhead. He had a conflict because the race got rain delayed from Saturday to Sunday, and he wasn't able to compete. But everywhere else, he's been really strong. How about a guy like Tyler Ripkema? He was second in practice earlier today. He's used to running big tracks. I mean, he's up from, basically the Great Lakes up there in New York, up in the Oswego, New York area. He's used to big, wide-open racetracks. But all of a sudden, a top 5 run last week at Riverhead, and he's second now in practice here today. That 32 car starting to look pretty good on the short tracks too.
Yeah, he's really turned things around this year and put that team in the right direction. Ronnie Silk having one heck of a year too. You talk about drivers who need to be smooth as quote unquote Silk, but Ron coming off. I mean, that team is just on a great run. Whether it was the the Sizzler at Stafford, and even going back to Richmond, watching that race play out on Flow Racing, and watching him put that 16 in places that I don't think they would have put that car in previous years. It seems like he's coming around to certainly making a run for the championship, but having some different shades of his championship year about 10 years ago.
Yeah, very much so, and it has been that long. It's hard to believe, but Ronnie Silk and Phil Moran now in their second season together. We're talking about car number 16, the 4th car from the end of line down on pit lane as they get ready to go qualifying, and Ronnie Silk is a team that has just found a little extra speed in that race car, and that little extra has really created a bit of a rivalry now between he and Justin Bonsignore. And we'll talk about that as the race goes on. These are two guys that end up pitting next to each other because they're near the top of the points, and that's often how they pit back in the paddock area. So they stare at each other all day long, and then they got to go out there and race. And we've seen 2 finishes at New Smyrna And then here last week at Riverhead were those two, the 51 of Justin Bonsignore and the 16 of Ronnie Silk, have gone toe-to-toe, traded some Nerf bars, so to speak, some rubber on the side of those race cars, and they have been going at it. And so it's going to be fun to see how that plays out tonight.
What I like about their veteran stance is the fact that, they ran each other very hard at Riverhead, but they ran with the respect of knowing that they're going to race again the following week. And they're lifers together, or they're, here for the entire season. You can't just... In other series, you might see someone just push them out of the way because they could get that small win right then and there. But this is more of a long-term feel, and I like what happened last week. Good hard-nosed racing. How about Austin Beers? Speaking of breakout stars, picked up that win in Richmond earlier this year, and he practiced third quickest here this afternoon.
He's a guy that won that first race of his career at Richmond. He has been really, really solid here. It's actually kind of his third year on the tour. He picked up halfway through the 21 season, ran all of last year in that 64 car. And Austin Beers, young driver, early 20s. He's trying to make a name for himself. Had a solid run going a week ago, was top 5, spun in the 4th turn, ended up finishing 17th, or otherwise he'd be right up there battling for the championship point lead as well. If you're new to qualifying and have never seen the NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour, this is one of the NASCAR Regional Touring Series. And so familiar if you are with the ARCA Menard Series, that series and the Whelen Modified Tour, basically the same. This is a northeastern version of that. ARCA races all around the country, but it's at that same level as far as NASCAR's developmental series. They'll run out 2 qualifying laps. It'll be single car qualifying. The fastest car in practice will go last, and that is Matt Hirschman. So that's how they're lined up on pit road. Slowest in practice to fastest in practice, with the faster cars going out toward the end. The better of those 2 laps, whatever lap, whether it's the first lap or the second lap, they will have the opportunity to win the pole and start up front here today. And that's how we'll set the starting lineup for tonight's Granite State Derby 175.
One driver we haven't talked about is the one who broke through last year to win the Granite State Derby, Doug Coby. Coby in car number 7 picked up the win over John McKennedy and Matt Hirschman last year. Ronnie Silk in the top 5 as well, same with Jake Johnson. But the Mayhew Tools, number 7, you can see him down on pit road right near his car owner, Tommy Baldwin. Those guys have a very fast race car. And again, you see the cream rise to the top even in practice. We have Justin Bonsignore right there. We have car number 79 of John McKennedy as well. So these drivers set to take time. We're just a few moments away. This will set the tone for 175 laps tonight. And with a year under their belt, Joe, I mean, it was a lot of the unknowns last year. Now they have kind of a notebook, and a fairly recent one at that. I wonder if that will play into the outcome of this year's strategy for the Granite State Derby.
Yeah, I think it really will. And there was a lot of factors last year. You've got to go back. This is only the 7th Whelen Modified Tour race here at this racetrack, and it goes all the way back to 1993. And Doug Coby won it back last year. It was the first time back since 98. Down on pit road tonight, we've got a pit reporter with us as part of our Flow Racing broadcast, Jacqueline Drake. Jacqueline, it is a beautiful day today at Lee USA Speedway. What's the storyline down on pit road?
Absolutely, Joe. The sky could not be more clear. There's not a single cloud out here, 80 degrees here in New Hampshire. And the storylines are just 2 things, track position and what are we going to do with those 6 tires coming up in the 175 feature event. So that track position is going to be everything. All the teams have been talking about it, qualifying coming up next, and just how important it is to get a good qualifying effort and to start up front. We're about to find out just how it all irons out.
Thank you very much, Jacqueline. As we get ready for the first car going onto the racetrack, it's Melissa Fifield in car number 01. Again, 2 laps on the clock, and the vehicles roar to life. Last year, again, Doug Coby picking up the win over McKennedy and Hirschman. And last year, Joe, it was very follow the leader. When Matt Hirschman pitted with 25 laps to go, everybody followed him. There was only one driver, and I forget who the driver, maybe it was Solomito, that stayed out, and they just, the entire field just ate his lunch within the first couple of laps. So you can't stay out when everybody else pulls in.
It'll be an interesting strategy to see how it plays out. It is going to be a strategy game here tonight with a couple of pit stops that these teams will have to undertake. So it's time to go qualifying. Let's get underway here with Mayhew Tool Poles qualifying, and we'll kick things off with the Pine Knoll Racing number 01 for Melissa Fifield, the Fury race car entry. Melissa, one of NASCAR's most popular drivers on the NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour with her 10th season on the tour. and over 131 career starts. We'll see how Melissa does on her qualifying lap. Now, this race here is race 2 of the Granite State Short Track Cup, helped presented by Whelen. It's part of the JDV Productions events. And it'll race not only the first race at Monadnock Speedway here at Lee, we'll go to Claremont later on in the month of July, and that's all part of the excitement of this multi-race series with an additional $15,000 of bonus money on hand for the drivers here today. Melissa Fifield, her best time, a 15.409. 15.409 for Melissa Fifield.
Car number 26 is on the racetrack now. This is Max Zackham behind the wheel of the 26 this week.
Last minute driver change got called Thursday night to jump in this car because Gary could not make it. And so Max Zackham gets his first start of the season in the 26 car. He's a little bit quicker than Melissa Fifield, and he'll pick up some more here. A 15.196 on lap 2 for Max Zackham, and he'll go to the top.
Max has some good experience here with the legend cars and other different disciplines of racing, so no surprise that he can acclimate himself so quickly to this racetrack. Car number 18 is on the racetrack now, set to take time. This is Ken Hagee. Ken gets the white flag.
Long Island-based driver is Ken Hagee getting set to go as he fires it off down into turns 1 and 2. See if he can get a little bit quicker. Second right now on lap number 1 for Ken Hagee, a gentleman who transports seafood up and down the eastern seaboard for a living. And he'll come into the top spot at 15.043. 15.043 for Ken Hagee puts him in the top spot.
Car number 6, and a driver that really gets around this racetrack very well is Woody Pitcat. Pitcat set to take time off of turn number 4 this time.
Pitcat's a driver that's got a lot of experience here, a couple of victories in modified racing here at this racetrack. Back for a second start with Stan Mertz Racing, a new car owner on the Whelen Modified Tour, but certainly not new to races here. As a matter of fact, those wins that I mentioned to you, Woody Pitcat was driving this 6 car for Stan Mertz. It just wasn't in Whelen Modified Tour competition. Pitcat under the green flag coming to the checkers.
Off of turn number 4, a seed that was planted here at Lee, playing out here in time trials too. Their first race, I believe, was Lee, and they come together with a 15.096. That's good for second now. Ken, still your leader, Ken Hagee.
Here's Justin Brown in the 46. The Goodale Racing team. Doug Ojeko is the crew chief. Riverhead Building Supply providing the backing for the number 46. Justin Brown, who's made a name for himself racing at the Riverhead Raceway on Long Island, joined the tour full-time this year, and it's been fun to have him as part of the touring series here now in our 5th race of the 2023 season.
This car is a beauty, and under the checkers, 15.143. 15.143 is the official time. And J.B. Fortin on the racetrack now in car number 34.
Not a very quick practice lap for J.B. Fortin, but this team has been able to race well. They've struggled in qualifying, and he said, if I could get that right, we'll have something for him, especially when you got track position to work to your advantage. J.B. Fortin, first car under 15 seconds, 14.897, and J.B. Fortin. See if he can get a little bit quicker here on his final lap as he comes to the checkers presented by Bob Slade. And J.B. Fortin goes 14.820, and he is now your provisional pole leader.
Car number 54 is on the racetrack. This is Tommy Catalano. Catalano wheels it off of turn number 2. Solid run last year, and Catalano competing here in the Granite State Cup. Currently number 18 in the point standings in the special 3-race series, trying to pick up some ground here today, not only on the tour, but here being 33% of the Granite State Cup. Representing through turns number 3 and 4, coming down to take the checkered flag. 15.865 becomes 14.798 and a brand new pole sitter.
And that is a major pickup for Tommy Catalano and that team. They took a big swing at it. Out of practice, they were not happy. They changed the entire setup on the race car, and that's his fastest lap of the day. Now, Matt Hirschman today went 14.772 in practice already. The qualifying speed starting to close in on that as Craig Lutz completes opening lap. He'll be third on lap 1, We'll see how he does here on lap 2 for a driver who likes those big, wide-open racetracks like New Smyrna, Thompson, New Hampshire, and Richmond. Lutz, he'll stay third, 14.922.
On the racetrack now, it is car number 43. 43 is local star Matt Kimball. Kimball, who brought half of the stands at Monadnock to his feet, or to their feet, when he qualified outside pole at one of the races. Turning fast laps here, 15.176 on lap number 1. He's down the backstretch.
Kimball dives into turn 3. Right along the bottom of the racetrack, hammer down, coming to the checkered flag. And Matt Kimball will move into 4th, a 15.021 for one of the local favorites. And talk about local favorites. Well, here comes another one.
Sammy Ramo off of turn number 2. Ramo currently number 6 in the Granite State Cup point standing. Someone that's really attracted to this particular series. Not running the full tour, but he is now position number 1. 14.747 down the backstretch.
Sammy Ramo, he came to play here tonight in Lee, New Hampshire. Gets it sideways, coming off turn number 4 to the checkered flag, and he goes even faster. 14.682 for Sammy Ramo, who was winning races here at this racetrack when he was just 15 years old. He knows how to get around here.
Anthony Nocella in car number 92 coming to speed, draws it up nice and wide off of turn number 2, roars it down the back straightaway, coming down to complete lap number 1. We get the time, and of course, as we get deeper into the field, we get faster, traditionally in 14.984, lap number 1 for Nocella.
Anthony Nocella has been having great runs no matter where we go, and he's got a tremendous amount of laps around this racetrack, whether it was in a NEMA midget or in a modified. And the way he has been running lately, you cannot count out this family operation in the number 92 for Anthony Nocella. He will remain in 4th, a 14.921 for Nocella.
New Hampshire's Brian Roby on the racetrack now, a driver who's really shown some muscle in these New Hampshire races, and the Granite State driver off of turn number 4 comes down to complete lap number 1. It's a fast one. 14.821. 14.821. That's going to be good for position number 4. He has to pick up a couple of tenths to beat Sammy Ramo. Checkered flag out. Does Roby do it? 16.647. New pole sitter Brian Roby.
Let's check in back on pit road with Jacqueline Drake.
Currently second in the standings right now, Tommy Catalano. I know after practice you said your car just needed a little bit more oomph. You needed those extra adjustments. You obviously went the right way with the adjustments. Currently sitting, well, now 4th on the board, but still past qualifying time. How did that car feel for you?
Felt much better. We, like I said, we went the right direction. Wish we had this all day to work with. I think we could have got a little more out of it, but happy with it. We'll make a few more changes, and we'll keep working at it during the race, and hopefully it'll hang in there for us.
Well, good luck to you. We're about to find out 175 laps to get it all figured out.
Jake Johnson in car number 3 put Old Blue number 3 into 3rd with a fast time of 14.722. But onto the racetrack now, different race car. This is Kyle Bonsignor.
6th on lap 1 for Kyle Bonsignor, a 14.840. How about Brian Roby, Sammy Ramo, and Jake Johnson? Your top 3 drivers that are from this area. Doing well here at Lee. Checkered flag is out, and Kyle Bonsignor says, I'm not from town, but I'll go 4th in that 22. Is 14.758 for Kyle Bonsignor.
Speaking of drivers who know their way around, he is from Chelmsford, Massachusetts, but still a lot of experience here at Lee USA Speedway of the Super Modifieds. Number 2 last year in the Granite State Derby. John McKennedy, last year's champion, off of turn number 4, gets the white flag.
This team has put a tremendous amount of focus in qualifying. He felt that if I need to run well at the end of the race, I've got to have a chance to start inside the top 5. Lap number 1, good enough for 2nd, 14.680 for John McKennedy, and that is where he will stay. Lap 1, the faster of the 2, McKennedy 2nd.
On the racetrack now, 2-time champion Justin Bonsignor off of turn number 2. The Phoenix Communications number 51 roars down the back straightaway, slamming with Ron Silk on Sunday afternoon. Picked up a win in his backyard. What can he do here this afternoon?
Only 8th fast on lap number 1 of 14.902. Justin Bonsignor trying to find a little bit more speed out of this 51 when he comes to the checkered flag. Can he go after the pole here today? No, he won't. He'll be fifth. A 14.735 for Justin Bonsignor.
It's a good pickup. They struggled last year in this race, were a spinner late in the event, and he was able to come away with a 10th place finish. So, yes, top 10, but not what he's used to. 51, still struggling. Off of turn number 4, white flag for the defending champion of this race. This is Doug Coby.
Fifth on lap 1 for Doug Coby. Coby is fifth, looking to rebound after a tough mistake last week where they didn't put the right gear in the race car. They had a 2-lap penalty, and they recover nicely. He goes to the top of 14.569. 14.569 for Doug Coby.
And look at turn number 2. Pulls it off of the corner. It's car number 16 coming into this race. Ronnie Silk is the point leader. No, excuse me, he's number 3 in the point standings for the Granite State Short Track Cup with 14.819 on his first lap. It's Silk down the back straightaway, trying to pick up some speed here. He is currently 9th on the scoreboard and will move to 7th, 14.750.
Here's Austin Beers in the 64 out of Northampton, Pennsylvania. Grew up on the same street that the Hirschman family lives on, neighbor to Matt Hirschman, and he is on track. Got his first win at the Richmond Raceway in March and has continued to have strength every single race on tour to date. Let's see what he does. Lap 1 is good enough for fifth at 14.719 for Austin Beers.
It's one thing to break through, and it's another thing to prove to your naysayers that it's not a fluke. Continuing to run up front and challenge for wins. Austin Beers under the checkered with 17.726. Excuse me, 14.726.
Pretty consistent laps, but we have seen the first lap is the better of many of these drivers as a green flag comes out for Tyler Ripkema from upstate New York. Ripkema and this team got a little bit of extra help in the garage to get these cars ready to bring to the racetrack. That extra little bit of help has certainly added up to the performance, and he was second in practice today. And we'll see lap number 1 be off the pace, 12th position, a 14.869, 12th for Tyler Ripkema.
He had that magic lap in practice. Now 5 hours later, what happens? Checkered flag out. It is identical? Nope, a little bit slower.
And not the lap that Tyler Ripkema and that team was looking for. One car left to qualify. It's Matt Hirschman, as he'll carry it off into turn number 1. Matt Hirschman, back on tour, led a tremendous amount of laps in the first half of this race 1 year ago. And Hirschman is one of the best modified drivers in this area. He's won dozens of races in modified competition in 1 year alone. Hirschman 7th on lap 1 with a 14.731.
You are watching excellence unfold in front of you in Matt Hirschman's stats. Checkered flag out, 14.652. Give him the inside of row number 2. Good for third.
So Matt Hirschman is third, and the Mayhew Tool Dominator Pole Award is going to stay in the Mayhew Tools family as Doug Coby has earned the pole position for tonight's Granite State Derby 175. While we've got an opportunity, let's set it down trackside and hear from our pole winner. Jacqueline Drake is standing by with Doug Coby.
Doug Coby wins the Mayhew Tools Pole Award, and you got it out of your car. We talked a little bit earlier, man, what a time you had in 2022. You won this race 1 year ago, and what a way to come right out of the gate and get the pole award.
Yeah, it's good to keep it in the Mayhew family. Mayhew's not too far from here in Turners Falls, Mass, and it's a couple hours, but we like to perform well in qualifying because they've been a great supporter of the pole award for, it's been about 5 or 6 years now on the tour. So we love when our sponsor puts up money and we get to take it. So that's a good thing. Just a great car here. This is such a tough track. I told you when we were talking pre-race that this is just, you guys who come here weekly, it's just so difficult. You have to be in such control over your right foot and not abuse the car. And, then you go out here for 2 laps and just come off pit road and take the green. It's like you really don't know what you have until lap 2. But super proud of Mayhew Tools team and Tommy Baldwin Racing and everybody who helps on this team to get a pole award. And now we just got to back it up tonight.
Not only did you get the pole, but what a redemption from last week. You had to start in the back of the field having a rear end gear issue, and now you're starting in the front of the field for the Granite State Derby. Do you have that strategy figured out when it comes to the 6 tires yet?
Yeah, I mean, we're going to do what we did last year. Hopefully the cautions fall our way, and it's a lot nicer to start not 2 laps down like we did last week at Riverhead. And, just hopefully we have a solid race. And, this is a strategy game, and some of these guys are going to change up their pit strategy just to get track position, and it's going to be a crapshoot. So hopefully we make the right calls and have the right gear in the car tonight, so that's a good thing, and we'll be ready to rip.
Doug Kobe's going to take home the pole award at Lee USA Speedway.
All right, thank you, Jacqueline. Doug Kobe on the pole award. Let's take a look at the starting lineup for tonight's race, or the qualifying order anyway. Doug Kobe wins the Mayhew Tools pole award. Brian Roby was second. Third for Matt Hirschman. Fourth, John McKennedy. Sam Ramu was fifth. Austin Beer sixth. Jake Johnson, last year's pole winner in the event, was seventh. Justin Bonsignor will start 8th, right alongside Ronnie Silk. Those 2 battled for the win last week at Riverhead. He'll start 9th, and Kyle Bonsignor rounds out the top 10. 11th place starter is going to be Tommy Catalano, JB Fortin 12th, Tyler Ripkema 13th, Anthony Nocella will start 14th, and Craig Lutz 15th. 16th on the grid, it's going to be Matt Kimball, followed by Ken Hagee and Justin Brown in 18th. 19th for Woody Pitkat, Max Zackham, and Melissa Fifield, rounding out the starting lineup for tonight's second annual Granite State Derby for 175 laps.
Joe Cost, it's going to be an amazing event here on a very, very heart-heavy weekend. And as we remember our fallen heroes, you'll notice that when we introduce all these drivers for the feature event, there will be a special name on the roof for each and every one of those race car drivers, as that represents a fallen hero. And the Gold Star family members, I say members because that plural, they'll have 2 members of the Gold Star family related to the fallen soldier right in front of them. So you'll be able to not only hear the soldier's name, but see the family that they that continue to honor their legacy, as we do so in our own way here with the Granite State Derby. And it's something that we started at Jennerstown a couple of years ago. But moving to Lee, New Hampshire this year for this event. As the NEMA Lights onto the racetrack now for their feature event. It is the final event before we bring out the NASCAR Whelen. And the show continues in just a few moments.
Well, thank you, Andy, as we get ready to turn the page in today's production, and that is the Granite State Derby 175 for the NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour. It's so great to have every one of you with us here on this Memorial Day weekend. Andy just outlined the significance of Memorial Day weekend in the racing community and all the big events that will take place around the globe in motorsports. But this weekend really about the Memorial Day holiday, and all the folks that are with us from our Gold Star families, those who have served, and those who continue to serve in our armed forces. We appreciate the things that you do and have done to allow us to celebrate the freedoms that we do here in the United States, and to be able to enjoy great racing action like we have here tonight under the NASCAR banner and under the Whelen Modified Tour for 175 laps. It's not possible without the sacrifice that each of you and each of your families have made over the years with us. We've got an outstanding pre-race ceremony and festivity for you here today, welcoming in several members of the armed forces to help us with the presentation. The cars will come gridded here along the front straightaway once we clear Victory Lane for the NEMA Light feature event, as our color guard begins to assemble. The United States Marines out of the Boston recruiting station here with us here today for the presentation of colors. Earlier today, if you're just joining us, we did have qualifying for the NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour. Matter of fact, it was only about an hour or so ago. That's why the cars are still paused and set down on pit lane. It was Doug Kobe who was able to earn the Mayhew Tool Pole Award. Local New Hampshire driver Brian Roby had a pretty solid run. He'll start second here tonight, with Matt Hirschman, John McKennedy, and Sam Ramu making up your top 5. track will get cleared. You can see down on pit road we've got all the crew members assembling for the Whelen Modified Tour, as they will have the opportunity to change tires. And so if you've got a seat here along the front straightaway or into turn number 4, you'll see some great racing action down on the pit lane. At least 2 pit stops here tonight. And that's going to be something that we will talk about pretty regularly as the night goes on. This racetrack here is very, very abrasive and abusive to race tires. Means the drivers got to be very, very ginger on that throttle and make sure that they can maintain the adequate speed in their race car without burning off the tires. And that's going to be one of the strategy components that will play out as the race goes on. Tonight's race is the 5th race of the 2023 season for the NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour. It's also the 2nd race of the Whelen Granite State Short Track Cup, a special mini-series made up of 3 races here at the New Hampshire Short Tracks. We had race 1 at the Monadnock Speedway just a few weeks ago, and then we went here. Now this will be the 2nd race, and the next one will take place at the Claremont Speedway in northern New Hampshire at the end of July. And those races put a little extra dollars on the table for the teams, drivers, and owners. Additional $15,000 of bonus money as part of this program. Matt Hirschman, who drives the number 60 car as he pulls off pit road, was the driver that won that championship, the Whelen Granite State Short Track Cup, just 1 year ago. You know, this racetrack has been a core part of short track racing in the Northeast for many, many years after it opened up back years ago as a dirt track in 1964, a 3/8 mile oval. It didn't stay dirt for very long, though. The next year they converted it over to an asphalt track. And as much as modified racing is contested at this racetrack and many of the other local divisions, it's only the 7th time that the NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour has raced here, and only the 2nd consecutive year. Prior to last year, we hadn't raced here since 1998. And in those 6 prior races, we haven't had a single repeat winner in modified tour competition. You know what? That's the same for the season that we have seen so far. There have not been a single repeat winner. One of the most competitive Whelen Modified Tour seasons that we have seen to date. You never know who's going to be able to jump up there and grab victory. Among the victors is Doug Coby. He won the Monadnock Speedway, leads that Whelen Granite State Short Track Cup championship point standings, won the pole here today. Last week had a really quick race car, but they had a problem before the race began. They decided to make a mechanical change with the rear end gears. They put the wrong gear in the car. It ended up resulting in a 2-lap penalty because of a violation on an impound race. They couldn't make any adjustments to the car, but they had to, and he never was able to recover. So Doug Coby with the pole here today, able to recover. It was a great battle, though. If you like rivalries, we're starting to see one develop in the modified tour, and that is between Justin Bonsignore in the 51 and Ronnie Silk in the 16 car, and they will be starting 8th and 9th respectively here tonight. Now, what happened a week ago was the reverse of what we started the season with down at New Smyrna Beach at the New Smyrna Speedway in Florida, kicking off the 75th year of NASCAR competition, right in the way that it started. And that was with open wheel modified racing on the beach of Daytona. There was a special trophy that everybody was going for. They called it the 1948 Cup, and it was presented by the 4th generation of the Franch family, and that would be Ben Kennedy who presented the trophy. The eventual winner was Ronnie Silk, but it was a battle between he and Justin Bonsignore. They went toe-to-toe, and boy, they were going after it as the race went on. And it certainly turned out to be pretty eventful. Well, if you were with us or watched the action last week at the Riverhead Raceway, green-white checker finish between Justin Bonsignore and Ronnie Silk, and they didn't hold anything back. They were going at it left, right, and center, beating and banging on each other on a quarter-mile bull ring. And, boy, it was an exciting finish between the two of them. Justin Bonsignore got the win there after Ronnie Silk dominated the race. He pulls that 51 down into position, trying to see if he can create the magic here again at this racetrack at Lee USA in New Hampshire. Now, we've also seen some excitement come out of some of the new drivers that are starting to make their name in the sport, and that's Austin Beards. He won the 2nd race of the season. That was at the Richmond Raceway as part of the NASCAR Cup Series weekend. It was a Friday night special. He won practice. He was fastest in qualifying, and he was fastest to win the race, and he dominated the event to get that first career victory. Those are the winners this season, 4 of them in all. Who will be next? It's only time will tell. We'll figure out exactly what that will play out to be. Taking a look at some of the races still on the schedule here this season. Next race on tour is going to be at the Seekonk Speedway, and that's going to be taking place just a couple of weeks from now on June 10th, back to Riverhead Raceway in the Wall Stadium in July. New Hampshire Motor Speedway will host the NASCAR Cup Series, and the highlight of the weekend will be the NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour on Saturday, July 16th, the next time that these cars are back on track, with New Hampshire State being the home of them. So that is the story here as the cars pull along pit lane. We can see the United States Marine Corps color guard established on the grass just outside of Victory Lane. When we introduce to you the starting lineup today, pay special attention to the Gold Star families that are positioned with the race cars. If you look atop the roof of the race cars, every single one of these cars is adorned with the name of one of our fallen heroes across all branches of the military. And many of them were chosen by the race teams for a very specific reason. And if you look at the 16 car for Ronnie Silk, well, this is a family tie. Ronnie Silk in the 16, John J. Silk Jr., Sergeant in the Army, is Ron's grandfather and is adorned atop that number 16 car as we honor our fallen heroes here tonight. A NASCAR tradition, and that is something that the Modified Tour certainly takes seriously here on this Memorial Day weekend in New Hampshire. So keep an eye on that. We will honor our Gold Star families, honor our fallen heroes here tonight throughout our starting lineup and the pre-race ceremonies today. And we'll put a little twist in it. Kentucky Derby was earlier this month, but this is the Granite State Derby, Andy Austin, and that means that we're going to put a little horse racing in, and these jockeys, as they get ready to go racing on their mounts here tonight, there'll be a little bit of a Kentucky Derby flair for this Granite State Derby.
This race will take a little longer than 2 minutes, but still all the strategy, and really, when it comes right down to it, you've seen the raw emotion here today. There's a lot of pomp, there's a lot of circumstance, there is a lot of heartstrings that tear at each and every one of these divisions for various reasons, and especially here with the personal connection of the Gold Star families. You'll see in just a few moments, as Joe said, there are 2 members of each Gold Star family who are represented at the front of each race car as we go from the back to the front to introduce these after our after our fallen heroes salute momentarily. This moment is the culmination, not necessarily the culmination, but a very stark reminder on our freedom and the people that protect it and the legacies that they create and they continue through events like this. Gold Star families, their biggest fear is that the soldier who was lost in combat will be forgotten, that people will forget to say their names, that people won't remember their names. And events like this is a small way for us to give back and to allow the legacy and the memory of these heroes to continue. So that when we introduce every single one of these drivers and read off the member of the military who was lost in combat and their families hear their names, a big, warm round of applause, maybe even go a little higher. Yell if it's on your heart. Make all the noise in the world to not only hear their name, but to yell it back, to celebrate this moment. And they gave all so that we can enjoy this on a beautiful Memorial Day weekend. Before we do that, though, we have the presentation of colors. We'll have the invocation. We'll have some moments that really make you proud to be here in person, or at least watching on Flow Racing. We as a community come together and honor our heroes. And we are moments away on that one. When we start the ceremony of remembrance, we ask that you rise and stand if you're able to honor these soldiers and to be part of this moment, and so that they are never forgotten and their legacy lives on. Ladies and gentlemen, please rise if you're able. for the presentation of colors by the Color Guard of the United States Marine Corps, recruiting station in Boston. To offer tonight's invocation, the Bishop of the Anglican Diocese of New England, the Right Reverend Drew Williams.
Can I ask you to pray with me now? Gracious God, on this Memorial Day weekend, we remember and give thanks for those who have given their lives in the service of our country. In particular, we lift to you those whose names are honored here this night. When the need was greatest, they stepped forward to defend the freedoms that we enjoy and to win the same for others. Help us to honor their memory by caring for the families they left behind. Bless those families with your comfort and fold them in your peace and provision. Embrace them in your promise of eternal reunion in the love and mercy of Jesus Christ. And Father, for this great racing event this night, thank you for your presence over us and the gift of a beautiful evening. Thank you for the driving skills, the mechanical expertise, the physical stamina, the mental and emotional fortitude, and the teamwork that makes tonight possible. Lord God, your word has promised that this night you will keep us from all harm, that you watch over every driver, over every life. Lord, you are faithful to watch over our coming and our going, both now and forevermore. And so we lift to you each driver this night, the crews who stand behind them and the fans who stand with them. Lord, you are our shield and our defender. And the shadow of your wing, we say together, Amen.
We ask that you remain standing, if you're able, as we salute America with God Bless America, performed by the University of Maine's Ed Mitchell. To perform Amazing Grace, Sergeant Elijah Balsar of the Moulton Borough Police Department.
Race fans, please remain standing as a Marine Corps color guard from the Boston Recruiting Station exits the racing surface. Ladies and gentlemen, at this time, introducing you to the starting lineup of today's Granite State Derby. Starting in the 21st position, driving the 0-1, and driving in honor of Senior Chief Petty Officer Daniel Healy, Melissa Fifield.
Starting in 20th position, in car number 26, driving for Private First Class Eric Courier, it's Max Zackham.
Starting in 19th, driving car number 6, Woody Pitcat, driving in honor of Corporal John Dawson.
Starting next, driving for Master Sergeant Craig Raguso, car number 46 is Justin Brown.
Driving car number 18, and driving in honor of Sergeant Gregory S. Rogers of the United States Army, car number 18, Ken Hagee.
Car number 43 starts next, racing for Corporate Brandon Garabrandt of the Marines. It is Matt Kimball.
Starting 15th in car number 82, driving in honor of Captain Sean G. Hogan of the United States Army, number 82, Craig Lutz.
The next driver is racing for Specialist Brian K. Arsenault of the Army, car number 92, Anthony Nocella.
Being honored tonight on car number 32, Private First Class Russell Durgan, driven by the 32 of Tyler Ripkema.
Corporal Justin Pellerin is on board tonight in car number 34. Your next starter is J.B. Fortin.
Riding alongside the number 54 tonight and starting 11th, Sergeant First Class Ryan Savard, driven by Tommy Catalano.
Car number 22 starts next. Staff Sergeant David J. Witcher is on the roof of car number 22 for Kyle Bonsignor.
Starting 9th, driving car 16, it's Ron Silk. He'll drive tonight for Sergeant John J. Silk, Jr. of the United States Army.
Racing to keep the memory of Michael Willett with us. Corporate Michael Willett is on the roof of car number 51, who starts next, Justin Bonsignor.
Next, we honor Air Force Captain Ryan Fenhoff. He will ride alongside the number 3 of Jake Johnson tonight.
Specialist Brandon Martinez of the U.S. Army is next on the roof of car number 64. This is Austin Beers.
Starting 5th in the 06 is Sam Ramu. He will ride alongside in honor of Marine Captain Ross A. Reynolds.
Starting in 4th, car number 79, defending champion of the Whelen Modified Tour. Tonight racing with Lance Corporal Robert Muskillo of the Marines. The 79 is John McKennedy.
Starting 3rd is car number 60. It's driven by Matt Hirschman. Matt will honor tonight Marine Lance Corporal Michael E. Geary.
And now your front row. On the outside, driving car number 25 and riding with Specialist Justin A. Rollins of the U.S. Army, it is Brian Roby.
And starting on the front row tonight will be Army Sergeant Richard L. Ford alongside Doug Kobe's 70 York.
Ladies and gentlemen, please remain standing and direct your attention to the start-finish line for the playing of our national anthem by Mr. Rob Branning.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Rob Branning with the playing of the Star-Spangled Banner tonight. And that is the starting lineup for tonight's Whelen Modified 175 laps in the Granite State Derby. In just a few moments, we'll fire these vehicles up and turn them loose for 175 laps in a strategy-filled race, where 6 tires will be changed within 175 laps. The worn-out Lee USA Service, 39 years of age, has not changed since 1984. Requires a lot of strategy. Even with a caution flag, with 25 laps to go last year, brought in the entire field, with the exception of one driver, and that one driver was hung out to dry and didn't finish inside the top 5. So track position is crucial. Pit time is imperative. And we will find out who will be the champion for 2023. Within 175 laps, can Doug Kobe defend his title? Justin Bonsignor, fresh off a win at Riverhead. Ron Silk, racing in honor of his grandfather, here tonight. Had a great battle with Car 51 just last week at Riverhead. Racing with respect, racing very hard. Just 3 of the stars that we'll see here tonight. But before we give the command to start this race, let's send it down trackside with Jacqueline Drake, who has one of our Gold Star families here tonight.
Represented on the number 54 of Tommy Catalano, I have Garrett and Marie here, who Tommy is running your son's name on the roof of his car tonight. How does that feel for you guys in honoring such a brave son that you both have?
Well, we've met Tommy, great American, hope he wins. And how do we feel, Marie?
Very honored, very grateful, very grateful.
Your son, Ryan, Sergeant First Class, how would you describe him?
We've all heard the expression quiet professional. He was a quiet professional, grew up in our family unassuming, and became a great warrior.
He was awesome. It was very, so much I could say, but he was known to be he was known for his smile, very gracious, and all of his testing that he did in his training, they called him a first-time go because he passed everything the first time, and he did us very proud, and we're very grateful for this opportunity.
He brought a lot of honor to our family, of course. His brothers and sisters have been motivated to live better lives because of his sacrifice.
Well, today and every day we honor Ryan. We honor all those that were brave and serve our country. Race fans, put your hands together for all the Gold Star families that came out today.
Pleasure to meet you, dear. Thank you very much.
21 strong. Not only the drivers ready to take time or take to the track for 175 laps, but the stories from the individuals who are on the hood, who gave us time, gave us the freedom to be able to do this, to enjoy racing on a beautiful Saturday night. They gave their lives so that we can enjoy a beautiful Saturday evening of racing with the NASCAR Whelen Modified Series.
Only a few moments away from firing the engines here tonight. We thank you so much for coming out with us here on this Memorial Day weekend and honoring our fallen heroes, our Gold Star families that are here on hand, that have gone through so much, make up the fabric of America, the fabric of short track racing, and are a key component to us being able to do what we do here and be free in the United States of America. Before long, the Granite State Derby will come to life, and we'll be ready to go racing for 175 circuits around this Lee USA Speedway. The drivers getting buckled in, final opportunity to think things over, think through the strategy, how they're going to tackle this racetrack over the next hour and a half or so as we get ready to go racing here in New Hampshire. It's been a beautiful day all day long. You're in for a real treat here tonight. Hopefully you brought your seatbelt because you're going to need it when you see the action here today at Lee USA Speedway. An outstanding event, an outstanding day. And boy, we are just getting started here in Modified Tour competition. Now, we talked about the Kentucky Derby. We talked about its ties to the Granite State Derby. It all comes into play full circle here today. The crown of the event becomes a champion here at the NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour banner under the JDV Productions event as we get ready to go racing. Momentarily, we'll hear the command from Gold Star family Steph Willett and Shannon Hensley. But first, the jockeys are on their mounts. It is time for the call to post.
Drivers, start your engines!
Oh, that is how it's done, Joe Koss, as we bring the field to life for 175 laps on this Memorial Day weekend. Last year, it was car number 7, Doug Kobe, taking the win. Last year, it was the driver who starts 3rd, Matt Hirschman, taking so many of the laps and the lap money that was tied to that. They call him Money Matt for a reason. There was last year's champion, John McKennedy, used this race en route to the championship, finishing in 2nd. This year, the team has put a lot of emphasis on this race and winning races in general. So watch for car number 79. There's Austin Beers, the Stars, coming into their own with 64, car number 3. And then fresh off his win 1 week ago, less than a week ago, Justin Bonsignor in car number 51. One of the hottest drivers in this division is Ron Silk. And then on top of all of that, Joe, we are racing for the Granite State Cup, a special 3-race series. 33% of this year's total goes into this race. So for those who are racing for the extra $15,000, this is a monumental event for these Whelen Modified Tour drivers.
No doubt there is so much on the line here tonight. This is a race that's going to require to be strategic, thoughtful. It's a thinking man's game here tonight at Lee Speedway, and it's going to take all the strategy of the men and women down on pit road. It's going to take all the strategy and the patience of the drivers and their right foot. Some describe it as you've got to put an egg under that right foot to make sure that you've saved your equipment for when it matters most in the final 30 laps of the event. But they're race car drivers after all, and that means that they've got go in their blood, and that's what they're looking to do here today. The field is rolling here along the front straightaway at the Lee USA Speedway, in the helm of Doug Kobe and one of the local favorites, Brian Roby, who is on the front row.
Brian Roby posted, he's so excited about being on the front row in his social media, posted his lap time from time trials, and he brought his fan base with him tonight. Matt Hirschman under him. And just a couple of years ago, would Brian Roby be thinking about starting alongside the Tommy Baldwin ride driven tonight by Doug Kobe? Racing with Matt Hirschman, a defending champion in John McKennedy, and Sammy Ramo, who comes into this race number 6 in the Granite State point standings. Again, 33% of the separate point fund, point championship goes into this race. And for a driver that is not racing the entire tour, a very, very premium event for Sammy Ramo in the 06.
Down on pit road tonight, we've got Jacqueline Drape covering all the stories. Let's go down trackside to Jacqueline.
We heard from the number 7 at Doug Kobe during qualified, but I caught up with the number 25 right outside of him, Brian Roby, who said he was a little bit surprised in his qualified effort. He said, we took a big swing on the setup and it paid off. He's all eyes forward on the 175 laps ahead. He hopes that it sticks and he comes home with a win.
Thank you, Jacqueline. As we get ready to bring the field to green in a couple of laps, you see the signal. 2 more laps, and they will be turned loose for 175 laps. Well, ladies and gentlemen, many of you have been here since noontime today. If you just got here and you were inspired by what you saw, starting with the bar in turn number 3, it's time to find your favorite family, your favorite driver, the reason why you are here, and let out the energy you have inside of you now. Ladies and gentlemen, on your feet, and drivers of the Whelen Modified Tour for the Granite State Derby, we salute you! Lights out on the pace truck with the driver who is the defending champion, and then against the local favorites, a David versus Goliath, if you will.
Pace truck is in. We are ready to go racing here in the Granite State Derby. Doug Kobe, a 6-time champion on the pole, will lead him around in the 70 York. Don Payne atop the flag stand. He is our honorary starter here tonight, and the green flag is waving in the Granite State Derby. number 1, and Doug Kobe leads the way. Brian Roby and him came together at the start-finish line. Roby will hang tough in the outside lane, but it's Kobe on the bottom. Matt Hirschman now moving into challenge for second.
Dying, yes, Roby's doing a great job on the outside, hanging with the leaders. And then Hirschman down to the inside is going to get the advantage. Not sure he can stay on the outside for a very long time. Again, coming into the fact that there's a conservative approach to this race. Speaking of conservative, out the window, Matt Hirschman to the inside, and Money Matt is your brand new leader back into turn number 1. Kobe to second.
Only took him 3 laps, and Matt Hirschman is out in front where he spent a lot of time in this race here a year ago. Sam Ramu had a pretty good qualifying effort here today. He'll slide in to challenge the 3rd spot underneath the driver he's raced with quite a bit. Brian Roby, a couple of the local favorites that run part-time on the tour, but they're running just like the big dogs that race the entire schedule in 3rd and 4th.
Oh, this has to be a moment for both the 25 and the 06 to think, how did we get here? You look in the rear view, you look ahead, and you see the stars of the Whelen Modified Tour, and they're with them. They are them right now, and they're side by side off of turn number 2.
Rabu finally able to get ahead of Brian Roby and take over the 3rd spot. Now here comes John McKennedy. McKennedy, if you had to pick a track on tour, it'd be Lee USA Speedway, closest to a home track for him. He's had a lot of success here at this racetrack, as he has with many tracks in this part of the country. He's working to the inside.
Between last year at Monadnock and last year here at Lee, he really stepped up and had some breakout moments, certainly backing them up with a 6th place finish at Monadnock at the Duel of the Dog a couple of weeks ago. He's not running the full tour, so these Granite State Cup races are at a premium for him. And car number 06 going after that extra point fund, and he rides in 3rd back into turn 1.
He said something about his race at Richmond, Riverhead, last week. He said, you know what, I knew I was fast early, and I knew that that was going to hurt me late in the going. And you know what? You got to have the same strategy here at this racetrack. You want to settle in, save your equipment, but not give up too many spots. Sammy Ramu right now sitting in 3rd, right where he needs to be.
And he's done a nice job of surrounding himself with veterans, whether it's people on his race car or his veteran spotter, Greg Emerson, who's been at it for well over 20 years and certainly knows the coming and goings of Lee USA Speedway and racetracks like Riverhead, saying, hey, you know what? You have to learn this. If you're fast, don't always push that button so early. And number 06, even though he's fast, he appears to be in cruise mode and comfortable behind Doug Kobe, who said earlier this afternoon, this is what he plans to do. Just kind of ride and let Matt Hirschman set the pace. As he's racking up the laps again, just like he did last year.
Get a good look all the way back through the field. You saw the orange number 82 of Craig Lutzko flashing by. Right ahead of him is the 32 of Tyler Ripkema. Tyler Ripkema was pretty quick in practice earlier today, was very optimistic about his chances, actually 2nd quick in practice, but he did not get a good qualifying lap, and that's mired him back in traffic with that 32 back in 14th, and so he's got some digging to do if he's going to try to take advantage of what he thought was a very quick race car.
Track position is at a premium, and to your point, 2nd in practice, fast race car, but hasn't been able to back it up here in the early going, as we have a quick 14 laps into this race, and nearly all of them led by Matt Hirschman, who now pulls ahead by 2 car lengths off of turn number 2.
Matt Hirschman is really one of the best at saving equipment. You got to throw Doug Kobe in the middle of that. John McKennedy very strong in that as well, so no surprise to see him run up front. Hirschman can set the pace here, though. He doesn't have to press too hard. He's got a good car length, 2 car lengths back to Doug Kobe. They both are veterans of the series. They know how to make the long run work for them, and that's what they're doing here at this point as they ride around here just in the early going.
Yeah, even at that, I mean, putting up some great times here early on, but these drivers are in conservation mode. Imagine that. Imagine having the hot rod that you do, but knowing that you're going to go through a tire cycle and a half. 6 tires to be replaced. That's what's at your disposal for the 75 laps. Pretty amazing to see what will happen here over the course of the next 150 laps or so, as looks like John McKennedy beginning to put some pressure on Ramu for a 3rd spot, and he's bringing Austin Beers with him.
Yeah, well, McKennedy, you know, he's qualified a lot better over the past couple of races, but you know, that's a team that I think they get outside the top 5 early on, and then they've got to fight and save and go aggressive more aggressive than they want to be. And I think McKennedy and that team knows that they need to position themselves inside the top 3, inside the top 2, if they want to be ready for that win at the end. And that's why I think you see him being a little bit more aggressive in the early stages.
It's a different discipline. And talking to Jeffrey Battle earlier this afternoon, a driver who has gone from super modifieds directly to modifieds, he said he had to completely relearn how to drive and how to brake a race car. And I think the same with McKennedy, who obviously has been top on the NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour for a while, but coming from super modifieds, having to go through that mentality as well of yes, sometimes you need to actually attack. Maybe you're backing off a little too much, and he is not doing so at all right now, running smooth.
Tyler Ripkema nearly getting into the side of J.B. Fortin through turns 3 and 4 the last time through. Everybody was able to check up and get away without too much damage, if any. But J.B. Fortin now ahead of Tyler Ripkema as they continue to battle. Craig Lutz in the middle of that as well. We talked about that 82. He'll go all the way to the bottom here off turn number 4, draw alongside down into turn 1, but cannot quite keep that car to the bottom in turns 1 and 2.
Lots of single file racing here early on as the camera for Flow Network stays on Craig Lutz in car number 82. Further on up, I mean, the camera was on Jake Johnson for a while. He had the breakout performance last year. So far has not been able to back it up as Kyle Bonsignor going to the inside of Brian Roby further on up in the pack.
Kyle Bonsignor has picked up more spots than anybody. He started in the 10th position. As he goes by Brian Roby, that'll move him into the 6th position. So that number 22 with Cam McDermott as a crew chief is making ground here in the early stages.
Speaking of Bonsignor, Justin Bonsignor, isn't it weird how the cream continues to rise to the top, and they door slammed each other, they Nerf bar slammed each other at Riverhead last Sunday, and they're once again in consecutive order on the racetrack. The other driver being Ron Silk right in front of him as they continue to work off of turn number 4.
Up front, though, Matt Hirschman leading the way. Still a healthy 2-car length advantage back to Doug Kobe. Third place, Sam Ramu. John McKennedy and Austin Beers is now closed in among the top 5. They've got a pretty good gap when you go back to that 6th place car we mentioned a second ago in the form of Kyle Bonsignor in the number 22 car. So these guys tending to ride here single file. One car that's not riding single file is just at the bottom half of the top 10. That's the 92 of Anthony Nocella. He is really getting after it, as is Matt Kimball along with Woody Pitkat.
Yeah, it's great to see those drivers, and especially Pitkat's team with Stan Mertz. He is living the dream. He says this is his final year as a car owner. He's doing it with his boy, Woody Pitkat, and they are on the tour. Just to be a car owner on the Whelen Modified Tour was a career goal for Stan, and he's certainly living the dream. They're coming off a solid run at Monadnock Speedway a couple of weeks ago, and they are just outside the top 10 of the Granite State Cup point standings. But Woody Pitkat and Stan, they got together. I believe their first race was Lee. They picked up the win. It was a different modified series where they did have that success, but certainly both drivers leaning on each other, their confidence in each other and their experience too to have a decent run. He's going to the outside of Ripkema, and they're right behind J.B. Fortin in turn number 3.
Yeah, Woody Pitkat is a driver that's not afraid to try to make the outside lane work, and I actually asked him that before the race. I said, where can you be? He said, I think the outside will work a little bit better in turns 1 and 2. He says, not as effective in turns 3 and 4, and this time he just cannot make that outside lane work to see if he can get around Tyler Ripkema in the 32.
And that is just a smart move by Woody Pitkat, and that is the years of experience. The driver obviously knows how to find victory lane, especially here at Lee USA Speedway, and not letting the early struggle really get the best of him. He says, you know what, I'll wait till the first pit stop, probably feeding information to the crew right now of what they need to do. So just because you don't see Pitkat passing race cars right now doesn't mean you won't see it mid-race, or really when it counts down to that 150 lap, 175 lap mark.
So a lot of racing still left to go. Matt Hirschman leading the way. See a battle deeper in the pack as they continue to race all throughout this 3/8 mile racetrack. Hirschman up in front, comes across the line, puts 35 laps up on the scoreboard. And this race has tended to have long runs, and so it's not surprising to see a pretty healthy long run to kick things off here today as everybody settles in. You look at the racetrack, you can see most of it very much in shade. When we got here this afternoon, practice at 1:30 today, the racetrack conditions greasy and slick. Now things are cooling off a little bit, still warm in the air, but the racetrack under full shadow except for a bit of the back straightaway, and that's going to change the handling and the setup that many of these crew chiefs put in these race cars.
Further on back in the pack, you see Matt Kimball racing with Woody Pitkat as they stay single file, but certainly flirting with racing side by side with each other. Again, they are in conservation mode. I think everybody at this point, Joe, having some experience with a year under their belt with this race, waiting to that first caution to really take a big swing at the race car, knowing that it's happened. Well, we've had some caution flags in last year's race, but, you know, someone with your experience can certainly speak to it a little bit more. What if this race, quote unquote, goes green flag, goes green to checker? When do you pit?
You know, with the way these tires fall off, I mean, you're not going to pit under green, but the way these tires fall off, you know, I think it's going to be a hard race car to hold on to, you know, when the tires start wearing out. So I don't think we'll go the whole way green, but, you know, I've been proven wrong before, and we'll have to see how it plays out. I mean, this first, 40 laps is ripped off here pretty quick. We're already down, coming up on, 135 laps to go already. So still a long way to go, and I think a lot will happen in that duration.
Hey, we only had a few caution flags last year, but they seem to be at the right times. We had an early caution flag, which brought some people to the pits. Caution flag right around lap 100, which brought everybody except for Jake Johnson, who stayed on the racetrack and kind of paid the price. He was able to hang with the leaders, but I think certainly drifted back a little bit further as a result of not pitting than if he would have. And then that late race caution. I mean, I wonder how late you stay out before you're like, no, I'm good. Like, say, for example, we get a caution flag on lap 100, and it's lap 160, and there were only 15 laps to go. Last year, they came in with 25 laps to go. What is the threshold? Would it be 10 laps? Would it be 15 laps? It's going to be interesting because if you've been on your race tires for 100 laps and you get a person that comes in and gets fresh rubber, that person's going to just burn them and, go around them in a very, very quick manner.
Yeah, tires are going to be worth their weight in gold tonight. So I think as long as it's not a green-white checker, and even then, I think pretty much everybody's going to grab tires when they can. But, there's a lot that could happen between now and then, and you can see some of the action a little bit deeper in the field. The 51 of Justin Bonsignor, this is a racetrack that is not one of his favorites. He said, I came in here last year, really didn't have, a good idea of what this Whelen Modified Tour car was going to do. He had run other race cars here at this racetrack, but they just didn't have the setup. And when you look at all the tracks on tour, the question was whether or not Lee was going to be the Achilles heel for Justin Bonsignor. And right now, when you look at practice, qualifying, and now a 10th place effort, he's not showing the strength that he has over the first 4 races of the season. One thing
that was very out of place last year, and to that point, is the fact that Bonsignor was mired outside the top 10 for the majority of the Granite State Derby last year. Had a late race incident. Matter of fact, that caution flag with 25 laps to go was as the result of a Bonsignor spin, and rallied back to just to finish in 10th in that race, and certainly not showing a front-running speed here tonight. And it is such a mortal thing to see Justin Bonsignor this deep into the pack, and it's not like he's a comer or goer. He's been at that point pretty much since they unloaded today. Currently under pressure from car number 92 of Anthony Nocella.
Yeah, some drivers are going to find a racetrack that they're quick and efficient at, and others, it just doesn't work no matter what you try. And Justin Bonsignor and that team is really in that position right now. He's got some challenge from behind. Anthony Nocella is a driver that spent a lot of time here racing in Neiman Midgets. He's run a lot of modified races here at this racetrack. He's going to go ahead and put a challenge on Justin Bonsignor into turn number 1, all the way down to the yellow line with those left tires. Anthony Nocella now moves up into the 10th spot, and Justin Bonsignor now outside the top 10.
I was going to say Justin was going to let him go, but then came back on the inside, but no match for car number 92. Further on up in the pack, it looks like Ron Silk has caught Brian Roby. That's the next big challenge up towards the front, and a battle for position number 6 on the racetrack. Those drivers do battle off of turn number 4, currently single file. Brian Roby doing what he did last year, but it was more at Monadnock Speedway where he qualified, I believe actually, he qualified inside the top 5 and ran within the top 10 for the majority of the race. So Roby proving that last year was not a fluke. He's fast no matter what he's doing. He had the field covered at Claremont in a modified race earlier this year. He had the field covered in the Sunday version of Duel at the Dog. Just a couple of weeks ago. Different race car. Matter of fact, wrecked the race car 1 week and was able to bring it back and win the next.
Here's Kyle Bonsignor picking up a spot in the 22, goes underneath Austin Beers in turns 1 and 2 and gets a spot. So Kyle Bonsignor started 10th, has now moved up to 5th. He's picked up the most positions so far since the start of the race, and he's starting to close into the back bumper of the 4th place runner of John McKennedy. Kyle Bonsignor, quick early. We'll have to see whether or not he can sustain that pace, but he hasn't shown any signs of weakening and slowing down here in the early going.
Matt Hirschman is putting down some really good times and putting some big cars down a lap here. That's another thing where you get to, figure into not only the pit strategy, but the fact that you can easily go down a lap. Woody Pitcat down 1 lap. Matt Kimball 1 lap in arrears. Good cars, only 58 laps into this race. Now 1 lap down. The next to go will be car number 46 of Justin Brown.
Hirschman on the move. Kimball going a lap down as well. I don't think we would have saw that. Kimball, a lot of laps at this racetrack, used to practice here when his dad was racing Crate Modifieds, the driver of the number 43, one of the local favorites, as his car slow as he goes a lap down. Austin Beers now trying to catch back up to Kyle Bonsignor. Kyle Bonsignor right there on the back bumper of John McKennedy, now only about a car length behind. He's just a cousin to Justin Bonsignor, and Kyle and this team put a lot of investment into their program, got a brand new race car, put that to work. They've changed their program, changed what they've done, and they're off to one of the strongest starts that he has ever had in a Whelen Modified Tour season.
I've really noticed him kick it up a notch with that team this year, and boy, he has passed more cars than anyone inside the top 10 this afternoon. It's the number 22 on your screen, and he's right behind John McKennedy. Meanwhile, Matt Hirschman has checked out. I mean, he's coming up on some lap traffic, but he has a half straightaway lead. Nothing's changed on Doug Kobe, and I don't think that's indicative of what Kobe's car can do. Kobe, just cool, calm, and Kobe, really. He is just riding in second and essentially just doing that. Sammy Ramo upping his game from even last year when he ran inside the top 5 for a decent chunk of this race. Ended up finishing in 6th. He's on the podium. He rides in 3rd. John McKennedy, who won so many races in a super modified, is now there's the challenge for 3rd. Here comes McKennedy down to the inside. Sammy Ramo will fight him off down the backstretch, and Kyle Bonsignor right there. 3 drivers all vying for spot number 3 and turn number 4.
Yeah, it's a great battle for that position here on the racetrack. We talked about Matt Hirschman out in front, continues to lap cars. Jacqueline, Matt Hirschman and that team, they have been a class of the field so far today.
They absolutely have. And Matt Hirschman, I spoke to him earlier, he said, I was hoping for a little bit of a better qualified run. He had to start in 3rd, obviously jumping out to the lead pretty early on. But he said, I'm going to know in about 30 to 40 laps if I have a car to beat. It looks like it's ironing out just how Hirschman thought it would. Let's keep an eye out for that number 60.
Yeah, very much so. And, you've got to be on cruise control with them out in front, being able to pace Doug Kobe by a straightaway. And we talked about the strength that Matt Hirschman has in guiding that race car around the racetrack when he's got to save equipment. A little bit further behind them, though, that battle continues. Sam Ramu holding off John McKennedy. It's the battle for 3rd, 4th, and 5th. Kyle Bonsignor is here. Austin Beers has fallen off a little bit, all the middle of lap traffic. Meanwhile, on the front straightaway, Max Zackham has spun, and that will bring out our first caution of the day here on lap number 69 for the 26 car of Max Zackham out of Preston, Connecticut, as he spins, bringing out the caution. And, boy, that might make things pretty interesting down on pit road. You already see the crew starting to gather their equipment up, tires and all. We'll have an opportunity to see some action down here on the pit lane.
Not every single racetrack has an infield pit road, and if you're with us in person today, matter of fact, if you're a Gold Star family who has never been to a live race before, you might have seen NASCAR on TV. This is NASCAR in your backyard, part of the Home Tracks program. You get to watch these drivers come into the pits and basically see a tire change, see all of the action right up in front. It's a sight to behold. And based on what happened last year, whatever the leader does, everybody else is going to do. It would be very interesting to me that if, say, Matt Hirschman came in and someone inside the top 5 decided to stay out. I don't think that's the case. It's lap 70. We're near halfway. It's a 6-tire race. You need to change some of those tires. A day that's had a lot of long green flag runs. The next one is likely to be next. You never know, so you don't want to get caught by having tires that are 135 years old.
This is one of those races that will be decided by the action that's done on pit road. The very first race of the year at New Smyrna Speedway, Austin Beers had a dominating race car, but he had 2 pit guns fail on pit road. That cost him an opportunity to win the race. You see the red light at the entrance of pit lane indicated as the fields come down pit road here. Matt Hirschman will lead the field down the pit lane. Everybody up on their feet, pit crews ready to go to work and earn their money here today. Hirschman, one of the first cars down the pit lane. Ripkema is in along with the 46 of Justin Brown. Sammy Ramu, he'll hit the pit stall of his crew on pit road. Let's cover the John McKennedy stop with Jacqueline Drake.
All hands on deck for the number 79 of John McKennedy. They're going to be putting 3 tires on that modified and sending them back out, making a little bit of an adjustment on that car as well. But all good from the crew here. They gave me a thumbs up. He seems pretty happy with his car.
John McKennedy and that team, they rehearsed their pit stops using video work. Doug Covey's going to be one of the quickest cars off of pit lane, but at the front end of pit road, Matt Hirschman is going to win the race off of pit road. Doug Covey will come out in second. That's how they were on the racetrack. John McKennedy and that team off pit road in third. Ken Hagee, a great stop for him. He'll be off pit road fourth. Kyle Bonsignor will pick up another spot on pit road, and Austin Beers your top 5 off pit road.
Sammy Ramo has a very tough pit stop. He was inside the top 5 and will now come in outside the top 5 as a result of that. So he certainly, lost a little track position and some smoke coming from the left rear of that 06. Maybe even more. I don't know if they're just scuffing the tires in, but some smoke pouring out of the number 06 momentarily. Looks like just an adjustment. He should be fine.
Good action down there on pit road. Melissa Fifield, the 01, looks like she'll be the beneficiary back behind the pace truck as we'll get ready to turn them loose here one more time. We've got a tire loose down through turns 1 and 2. You see it come to the inside of the racetrack along the Armco barrier, so that is certainly not how it is supposed to go. It's off the 92 of Anthony Nocella, the left rear tire for Anthony Nocella out of Woburn, Massachusetts. And they'll go to work and see if they can get that tire back on the 92.
Tough break for a driver who was doing a nice job. He was running right around the 10th position. Not able to penetrate the top 5 just yet, but that's certainly not going to help. And with these very, very sensitive race cars on this aging surface, one must wonder if that is going to affect the handling of the car moving forward.
All right, so Anthony Nocella and that team able to get back off of pit road and make their way out onto the racetrack. So he's going to lose a ton of ground, one of the quickest cars on track. We'll reset the lineup for you here. Matt Hirschman, the race leader. Doug Covey off pit road second. Third is John McKennedy, and then it's Kyle Bonsignor and Austin Beers, your top 5. Let's hear more on what happened to Anthony Nocella with Jacqueline Drake.
Yeah, unfortunate for that number 92 of Anthony Nocella. He came in, he said that left rear tire was coming off of his modified. They quickly assessed it and sent him back to the back of the field.
Yeah, thank you, Jacqueline. It did indeed as it came off down there in turns 1 and 2. Nocella is going to have some work to do. And matter of fact, he's going to come down pit road to do a little bit more work on that number 92 and see if they can make further improvements upon that race car. Now, I want to note that we saw the 18 car of Ken Hagee was a 4th car off of pit lane, but he shows at the tail end of the field. The reason for that is this is under a quickie yellow procedure here tonight, and basically that means unless stated otherwise, all lead lap and lap down cars are on pit lane. So that is why Ken Hagee was 4th off pit road, but he is a lap down, and he will rejoin at the tail end of the field. Just for another update, let's go down trackside to Jacqueline Drake. You had some other updates on the pit stops. Jacqueline, what was it?
Yeah, I'm going through just all the teams and checking to see how many tires they've taken. There's many teams that took 3 tires, which is exactly what we thought the tire strategy was going to be. 3 and 3 if they get another yellow coming up. Doug Covey being one of them. We already talked about John McKennedy, and making our way down to Matt Hirschman just to see what that number 60 did.
All right, getting ready to get back under the green flag. Matt Hirschman will line up on the bottom. All new tires, new setup. What will they do with it? Outside lane, it's Doug Covey in the 7 New York. John McKennedy, Kyle Bonsignor making up row 2. Pace truck is in. Field rolls through the restart zone, and Matt Hirschman fires and drives away from Doug Covey, who loses 3, maybe 4 spots on the restart.
What a wild start. The inside line was the way to go, and it still is. Austin Beers pokes out of the inside of John McKennedy as they battle for second. Off of turn number 4, it's going to be McKennedy, who's now going after Matt Hirschman back in turn number 1.
McKennedy getting aggressive here on this restart in the tire tracks with Matt Hirschman off 2, but Hirschman opens up the advantage. Beers now 3rd. Finally, Kobe able to break free, but Justin Bonsignore a little bit deeper in the pack, sails it in on the bottom and slides into challenge for 5th.
It was a great pit stop for the 51 team, putting him up on the leaderboard a little further, and Justin backing it up, who does not like Lee USA Speedway, has had a hard time adjusting to it in a Whelen Modified Tour ride. He's now inside the top 5 going off of turn number 2.
Ryan Stone and that team, the crew chief, putting a good setup here and a good restart for Kyle Bonsignore. Behind them, Ron Silk trying to find a bumper underneath Kyle Bonsignore. He's bringing Tommy Catalano right along with him in the 54.
So much for conserving, so much for riding around. You still see a lot of single file action, but some drivers getting a little chippy further on back. Tommy Catalano behind the car number 16 of Ron Silk as they battle off of turn 4.
Tommy Catalano and this team really was not happy after practice, and they put everything at it. They changed the setup. They had no idea what they were going to have. They said, we don't want to run 15 tonight. We want to take a stab at it. And boy, I bet they're glad they did, because they got a race car that certainly has a lot more life than it did when it unloaded here earlier today.
We are inside 100 laps to go on this race, and Austin Beers now taking a peek down to the inside of John McKennedy. They go after it at turn number 3. McKennedy hangs it down for one more lap. Matter of fact, those drivers, top 4, broken away nicely from 5th place Justin Bonsignore.
Great battles everywhere on the racetrack. Ron Silk now drawing alongside the 22. On turn number 2, to the back straightaway. Silk digging on the bottom. It's Bonsignore. They slide up the racetrack. Bonsignore goes wide, and Ronnie Silk and Tommy Catalano, possibly Jake Johnson, looking to take advantage.
Couple of drivers we haven't seen make a big charge yet. One of them being Ron Silk, the other being Jake Johnson, but a good side-by-side battle for second off of 2. Excuse me, 4.
It's Austin Beers to the inside of John McKennedy. Digs to the bottom. McKennedy holding tough in the outside lane. Gets a good launch off the corner. He's able to hold Austin Beers at bay, but Beers sails it deep down to the bottom of 3.
2 of the young stars of the NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour, and you wonder how long John McKennedy is going to let it hang on groove number 2 with still so many laps to go. And now he's springing back to life down the back straightaway. There's still 2x2, and now Beers will poke the bear in turn number 3.
To the inside lane, Austin Beers digging on the bottom. Young driver that races like a veteran is Austin Beers. Outside lane, McKennedy stays where he was. Now, this time by, Matt Hirschman has not been able to extend the advantage that he hit prior to the pit stop, and they are still toe-to-toe and wheel-to-wheel as they cross the line.
Matt Hirschman looks in his rearview mirror on cruise control. He has set the pace since pretty much the drop of the green flag. And Hirschman doing just that, running whichever line he wants, but looks in the rearview mirror and now sees the battle for second subside a little bit. They're single file heading back into turn number 1. It's Austin Beers in car 64. Also joining that fray is Sammy Ramu in car number 06. Had an unfortunate pit stop, lost a couple of positions, has gained them back on the racetrack, and is now one of the fastest cars at Lee USA Speedway, running inside the top 5. Ramu currently scored in 4th, closing in on McKennedy.
Down into turn 4, here they come, and Ramu trying to pick up for lost ground. A little deeper in the field. Great action with Jake Johnson in the 82 of Craig Lutz. Tommy Catalano just ahead as well, as you get a look at it here from our backstretch camera. There's a look at it here. It's to the inside is Tommy Catalano in the red 54, seeing if he can make a lane underneath Kyle Bonsignore. We talked about the comers and the goers. Kyle Bonsignore was charging when we had that first run, but now he's kind of stabilized, and he's had a hard time getting back up into the top 5 where he once was.
Here's a big battle in turn number 3, a pickup from Riverhead last week in Ronnie Silk. This one's a little cleaner. They don't even touch, and Silk makes the move going down to the inside. Give Ronnie Silk position number 5 off of turn number 2. He'll leave Bonsignore back to 6 with Kyle right behind him in the 22.
Top 5 now for Ronnie Silk. Bonsignore behind, his cousin behind him, Kyle Bonsignore, and then Tommy Catalano and Jake Johnson. Now, Craig Lutz, I've mentioned his name a couple of times, just outside the top 10. It's a car that really doesn't enjoy the smaller tracks. We documented that earlier in the day today, but he's had a pretty decent run, and he's always seeming to find a way to make moves on people. But Up front, Matt Hirschman just continues to dominate. I mean, he's been up front since lap 3 when he took it away from Doug Coby.
And it's hard to really gauge where Matt Hirschman is at on the acceleration scale. I mean, there was a point last year where he was leading this race and he was letting off the throttle at the start-finish line. Might be doing the same thing here tonight. It's kind of hard to hear from our vantage point, but I would not be surprised to hear if Matt Hirschman's like, you know what? No one's really challenged me yet. So this is what I'm going to do. The second that they do challenge me, you're going to see what I actually have and how much he wants to continue to be the person who sets the pace for this race. Coming up on lap number 100.
Now, we got to the point of the race. We talked about Doug Coby. It was on the front row when we went back under the green flag. Since the pit stop, though, he's been moving backwards. He's currently running in a 10th position. For more, let's go down to Jacqueline.
Yeah, guys, I walked over here to the pit at that number 7, and the crew members are shaking their head in complete frustration. They said, we don't know what's going on. We're having issues with the drivetrain. As you can see, Doug Coby continuing to fall back for the pole sitter of today.
Tough break for that team, Jacqueline. They've had a tough couple of races. At Richmond, they were strong. They had an oil line come off that car, and it got oil on the tires. The handling went away for him in the late going. Then the 2-lap penalty at the Riverhead Raceway just 6 days ago. Now a pole-winning race car that is struggling to stay inside the top 10 for that 7 New York of Doug Coby. Things are not looking good for Coby and that 7 New York team.
It has certainly been an uncharacteristic stretch for car number 7 New York, as Coby, again, as you mentioned, could not pull off the corner. Different gearing last week at Riverhead. Had a strong race car, set fast time here, but has certainly slithered back through the field and barely hanging on to the top 10. Meanwhile, back up in front, Matt Hirschman has begun to pull away just a little bit, about 5 car lengths on car number 64. It's Austin Beers riding in second, followed by John McKennedy and Sammy Ramo.
In a distant 4th place is Ron Silk. 5th place, I should say, is Ron Silk. You know, Silk has worked his way forward. He started in the 9th position here today. He's been pretty quiet, but I think he might be one of the sleepers in this race here today that we'll have to keep an eye on. We saw under the caution period that the 92 car of Anthony Docella lost the left rear tire. Let's go trackside and hear from him.
Down here with Anthony Nocella, who's retired for the evening. Anthony, what happened?
Yeah, you know, we had a pretty good car going and just came in the pit there, and they never got the left rear tire on it all the way and lost it coming around on the yellow and just ground everything off. Just broke the hind joint on the rear end.
Unfortunate end for the 92.
The Bonsignors continue to battle, and boy, business is really picking up in turn number 2. 51-22 come up on Melissa Fifield. She's going down a lap. Tommy Catalano and Jake Johnson have joined the party, and they brought Craig Lutz along.
That's a great battle as we look from 6th on back between the 2 Bonsignors and then Tommy Catalano, Jake Johnson, and Craig Lutz. 5 cars all battling together. Doug Coby behind them was able to pick up another spot, so he's back inside the 9th position. But here comes Kyle Bonsignor. He's got a wheel trying to stick it underneath Justin Bonsignor, and it is just not something that he's got enough power to get underneath that 51 car.
It's too bad, too, because if the 22 sets the 51 up correctly, traditionally Justin will drift up, and that's midway through corners 1 and 2, where Kyle could take advantage. You can see him drift up, not so much this time, but Kyle anticipated that, closed in on the back bumper, but still single file as they get back into turn number 3.
With everybody running the bottom so far over 112 laps, well, there's a lot of rubber down low, and you've got to start moving up to the top if you want to try to make something work. We'll see if that comes into play here as the race goes on, but so far everybody's able to hold the bottom. But you can see Justin Bonsignor's car just doesn't want to stick as well on entry, and that's where that opportunity is opening up for the cars behind him, who are all stacked up nose to tail.
And Kyle Bonsignor looks like he's getting a little chippy too and ready to make a move. He takes a peek to the outside in turn number 3. Doesn't really do anything with it, but at least testing the waters for now as they battle for spot number 6. Jake Johnson sits right there as well. And, you know, a lot to be said. They might be shaking their heads in disbelief, but Doug Coby has taken what's turned into a 10th place race car and turned it into potentially a top 5 race car because he has caught that pack ahead of him. Doug Coby is on the charge.
Now, all of a sudden, Coby's car has come back to life, and he'll draw alongside Craig Lutz getting down into turn number 3. He'll go underneath Lutz with ease, and now he has picked up another spot that'll put him in at least the 10th position. So Doug Kobe continuing to move forward now after giving up a ton of track position.
Today on the broadcast, we talked about excellence in the moment, and we rattled off all of Matt Hirschman's accomplishments. What you're seeing fold or unfold in front of your eyes these days is simply amazing. And then you have six-time Doug Kobe taking the car that was really out to lunch 10 laps ago and turning it into one of the fastest race cars on the track. Just a smart race car driver taking the car that he has and doing what he can with it, not trying to overdrive it, waiting for the car to come back to him. And he's picked up 2 spots in the last half dozen laps. Doug Kobe charging back to the front, closing in on Jake Johnson.
He gets by Doug Kobe, so picks up another spot, or Doug Kobe gets by Tommy Catalano, rather, picking up another spot. Jake Johnson square in the crosshairs for Kobe. Johnson was optimistic about having a good, solid run here tonight. I think he expected to run inside the top 5. 8th right now, still a solid run for the young driver, but I know he wanted a little bit more here before the checkered flag flies.
And I think that's because the expectation was set after grabbing the pole last year and running inside the top 5 for so long. I had wondered in the early going if Jake Johnson learned the lessons of last year, just to kind of roll out of the throttle a little earlier, let the race come to you. He has another year of experience under his belt for a young race car driver, and maybe he would approach it different. But right now, it looks like 8th place is the best that Jake Johnson can do, and right behind him is Doug Kobe. They all chase Justin Bonsignor down the front straightaway.
There's Matt Hirschman, pretty healthy advantage back to Austin Peers and John McKennedy. And the second and third battle is working through some of that lap traffic. And you see the strength and the speed out of Matt Hirschman the longer we go under these green flag runs. The first couple of laps under the restarts just could not break free of the battles behind him, but now he's opening it up once again.
He is simply wearing the field out, and he's doing it by probably not running at 100% throttle. He is just the coolest driver in the field right now. I mean, zero flinch out of Matt Hirschman, continuing to impress and avenge what was a 2022 loss. I mean, he did come up, he didn't pick up the victory. He led a ton of laps. Kobe ended up with the win. And speaking of Kobe, he's locked in that great battle. They're side by side off of 4. Here comes Johnson.
Yeah, Jake Johnson finally able to get that run underneath Kyle Bonsignor. Doug Kobe will try to follow in his higher tracks off turn 2 as Kyle Bonsignor up top. Kobe has to bail out there, still side by side.
I cannot be more impressed with Doug Kobe, and it's so hard to be impressed by someone who's won 6 Tour championships. But the performance that he's putting in and the work he's putting into car number 7 right now, and he rolls out of the throttle just a little bit there, but I think he sensed that it might get a little hairy in front of him and let the drivers ahead of him kind of pace it out the way that they were going to. He's right back in the thick of things, and now Kyle Bonsignor to the outside of Justin. The Cousins battle off of turn number 2 with Jake Johnson right there, and Doug Kobe now back in the thick of things.
And they came together as they came across the start-finish line last time by the right front tire into the side of Kyle Bonsignor's car. Bonsignor made it work on the outside, did Kyle.
Jeez.
Now Doug Kobe said, I'm going up top. We knew the outside lane was going to come into play, and Kobe now picks up another couple of spots. He'll slide in behind Kyle Bonsignor.
The smartest man behind the wheel of the Whelen Modified Tour right now is Doug Kobe, taking the car that was completely out to lunch, had fallen almost outside of the top 10, is charging back to the top 5 right behind Kyle Bonsignor as they have a long way to go to catch Ron Silk. With 130 laps into this one, the field now starting to see the tire wear check in. So the drivers who really got after it in when the green flag came out with fresh tires starting to fall off a little bit. So maybe having the issues that he did, letting the car come to him and running more consistent laps, has helped out the 7 New York car of Doug Kobe, because he is all over Kyle Bonsignor in turn number 2.
Matt Hirschman is out in front, but the battle for second is starting to intensify, and that's between Austin Peers and John McKennedy. Those 2 cars have closed in very tightly now. McKennedy, right behind the race leader, is battling along with Austin Peers. Now, every so often, McKennedy will go up and give him a little pat to the rear bumper, and he's working the outside lane through turns 1 and 2 a little bit higher, trying to see if he can find a way around Austin Peers.
We have only had 1 caution flag in this race, and John McKennedy showing that he when he needs, has the faster race car, but can he get around Austin Beers? Youth exuberance from car number 64 has kept him where he's at, and that's well inside the top 3, running in position number 2. Nobody right now has anything for Matt Hirschman. John McKennedy certainly has something for Austin Beers off the corner.
We continue to watch the battle with Kyle Bonsignor, Doug Coby, Jake Johnson. That's one of the best battles on the racetrack. That's 6th, 7th, and 8th on the running surface. Across the line they come. They'll put 135 laps up on the scoreboard. It's only 45 laps remaining in today's race. The Granite State Derby 175 as they continue to navigate lap traffic while battling for the 6th spot.
So I heard from Jacqueline Drake during our pit cycle that a lot of drivers only took 3 tires, which goes against conventional wisdom of taking 2 or 4. It's worked out because it's been pretty uniform, and they're side by side now. Here comes Doug Coby to the inside of Bonsignor.
Yeah, Doug Coby able to sweep Kyle Bonsignor wide. Jake Johnson fills the gap down to the inside, and so Coby now takes back over 6th to Jake Johnson, 7th and 8th for Kyle Bonsignor. Now, conventional wisdom in modified racing, the left front tire generally does not wear out in the way that the others do. And so that's why the tire allotment was 6 tires for today. So they can come back down pit road, grab 3 more tires before this one is all said and done. And with about 36 laps to go, you've got an opportunity to be able to get this done and get another round of tires in before it's all done. But that caution flag is going to have to wait before that happens.
Yeah, last year it waved with 25 laps to go, and everybody came on pit road. Earlier during the broadcast, we wondered aloud on how late these drivers would go before they said, all right, you know what, I have what I have, I'm going to try to race it out. But the fact that they've been so long on this green flag run, and I think even with 5 laps to go, you come in and you take the tires. If that situation presents itself, we'll see how it does as we get 141 laps on the scoreboard now. Battle for second heating up in turn number 3.
Continues to heat up. The 79 of John McKennedy has been hounding the back bumper of Austin Beers in the 64 over several laps, and he just cannot find a way around the young driver. This time McKennedy's got the move. To the bottom of turn number 3 they go. McKennedy off screen at the moment, but McKennedy now to the inside lane of the racetrack. Can't make it work for a second. Beers holds on. McKennedy goes topside.
He had full daylight that time off of turn number 4, and now they go down to turn 3 on the next lap. This is where McKennedy is really strong. Tries to set him up, but Beers, learning from the experience of the previous lap, stays right in front of the 79 as they chase Woody Pitcat. Now Woody is down a lap or 2. The driver they're chasing in the standings is Matt Hirschman, of course. Hirschman has been up front since about lap number 3. Car number 60 on cruise control has led so many laps here today. Led a ton of laps last year in the Granite State Derby, but last year did not lead the most important one. Wouldn't it be a heartbreaker for history to repeat itself, for the 60 team to lead all these laps but not have a victory to show for it?
Yeah, that's one of the things about this sport. It is so heartbreaking. Anything can go wrong in the last moment, but Matt Hirschman, a veteran of the series, knows how to run these races. Here's that battle we were talking about, the 64 of Austin Beers and John McKennedy. McKennedy on the back bumper, looks to the inside across the start-finish line as they head to 1.
Yeah, he has the whole shot now, draws it up even, but Beers will peel it off of turn number 2. First one to put the hammer down. McKennedy still looks for the inside. They're coming up on Tyler Ripkema in car number 32. Ripkema is going down, or is down a lap, but McKennedy give him the advantage into turn number 1. He'll clear Austin Beers in turn number 2.
Now, Austin Beers was holding John McKennedy up just a bit, it would appear. Does John McKennedy in the final handful of laps of this one have any energy to be able to track down the race leader, Matt Hirschman, in lap traffic? He'll go around to the outside of Tyler Ripkema, pick up that lap automobile, but right now Matt Hirschman out in front by a healthy margin. It's a full straightaway difference in 2.5 seconds.
The green flag came out right around lap number 75, and they've run an equal distance under green again, where you started to see drivers really start to lose their race car. With 25 laps in this race, we might see a completely different race based on the fact that this is uncharted territory for these drivers here tonight. They had the green flag cycle in the first round. The second round running a little bit longer now. Drivers seem to be somewhat under control, but who knows what's going to happen here in the last 24 laps of this race.
Last time by an open racetrack, John McKennedy was much faster than Matt Hirschman. This time through, Matt Hirschman has caught the tail end of lead of lap traffic. He's following Justin Brown. McKennedy now much faster this time through. Of course, he'll have to deal with this traffic as well, but McKennedy's dealing with open racetrack. He's almost a half a second faster that time through, and he is chewing into the race lead held by Matt Hirschman.
They put so much emphasis on this race, they being the 79 team, and to see it pay off here tonight would be something. And you know that they will not race John McKennedy nearly as hard as they'll race Matt Hirschman, because those who were fighting to stay on the lead lap were like, well, now I'm down a lap. Here goes just another car around me. That car would be the 79. So, boy, John McKennedy, once he finally did get around Austin Beers, has put a quarter of a straightaway on him and has really narrowed the gap down. It is a half straightaway. It was a full straightaway about a half dozen laps ago.
He's cut the lead in half. It's now down to 1.2 seconds between the race leader, Matt Hirschman, and John McKennedy. McKennedy can look out the windshield of his race car and see that 60 car who's tied up trying to get around Tommy Catalano. 2 lap cars between the race leaders. McKennedy trailing as Matt Hirschman continues to slice and dice his way through traffic.
McKennedy drove it in deep last time into turn number 3. He'll do the same thing. Clears Matt Kimball. No, that's not Matt Kimball. It's Justin Brown at the right time. Able to keep the hammer down, and now he's closing in on Tommy Catalano in car number 54. The separation continues to shrink as the laps do.
Equally matched last time through, now under 1 second, the race advantage for Matt Hirschman. Hirschman looks in the rearview mirror. He dispatches with Craig Lutz. He'll look ahead. He'll see Justin Bonsignore about ready to go a lap down. This time it's John McKennedy who will pay the price for lap traffic. He gets hung on the outside lane through turn 4.
Now, last year, Justin Bonsignore brought out a late race caution after a spin. He was about to go down a lap last year, and history repeating itself. He just might go down a lap here in the next couple circuits off of turn number 4. It is the 51 in a very unlikely place, but here at Lee USA Speedway, pretty consistent the last couple of years, and now a little bit of a bump as they go down to the inside. Will this draw the ire of the driver of 51?
15 laps to go, 14 this time by Matt Hirschman, able to get by the 51 of Justin Bonsignore. Now, John McKennedy catches him at the exit of turn number 2. Bonsignore was holding Hirschman up. Now he's got clear racetrack. To the outside, McKennedy, they're both by the lap traffic for now as they come to 13 to go.
Matt Hirschman was more physical with Justin Bonsignore than he was with anybody else in this field, and that's because he knew. He was being told by his spotter, because the heat is on, and that heat is being powered by car number 79 driver John McKennedy. The separation continues to shrink, and there's clear sailing ahead of both drivers.
Before the race, the car owner for John McKennedy said, we need a win, and we need it today. John McKennedy has been fast over the past handful of races at the end. He's doing it again here. They'll come to the line this time by. It'll be 11 laps to go. Matt Hirschman leads the way. He's got an advantage over John McKennedy, but he cuts it down again. McKennedy, 0.2 of a second faster that time by.
On a worn racetrack, 39 years old, on tires that are going to be nearly 100 laps old. 2 of the best this afternoon are doing battle into turn number 1. Coming up on some lap traffic, Ken Hege set to go down a lap. Then it's Brian Roby. These are drivers who are struggling to stay on the lead lap, or if we get a late race caution, they want to be scored on the lead lap and not go down a lap, so they're going to be fighting for their life here in the last couple of laps.
That time by, the advantage by the slimmest of margins goes to Matt Hirschman. So he is able to hold John McKennedy at bay. He catches Ken Hege. He'll work around him. McKennedy, though, he'll catch him at a bad spot at the exit of turn number 4, and it favors Matt Hirschman.
That might have done it for the 79, and it's so interesting that something like that, as simple as one corner, can really throw off your race. He needs to hit every single mark perfectly now, and he just may do that. John McKennedy closing in one more time, but that advantage goes to Matt Hirschman. Brian Roby gets right out of the way, lets the leader go by. He's been in that position so many times, so he's certainly giving the driver who's had the field in his hand this afternoon the respect that he deserves.
6 laps to go this time by, and Matt Hirschman is starting to open up that advantage once again. McKennedy, did he use everything he had in that 79 car, just trying to get to the race leader? Because now that we've got open racetrack, Hirschman back to the accelerator, using what's left in him. 5 to go. Clear racetrack ahead for the moment for Matt Hirschman.
Matt Hirschman, who started the Granite State Cup running inside the top 5 at the Duel with the Dog a couple of weeks ago, had a late race mishap which shuffled him out of the order. I bring this up because he was last year's champion in the Granite State Cup and benefited from the nearly $15,000 extra in point fund money. He did have that poor finish, at least Matt Hirschman style poor finish with Duel with the Dog. This is certainly going to help him set up for the charge to the championship at Claremont, the Clash at Claremont coming up in July.
He'll come off turn number 4 this time by as Matt Hirschman works around the lapped automobile of Matt Kimball. 2 laps to go for Northampton, Pennsylvania driver Matt Hirschman. McKennedy is closing in, but he's not close enough to mount a challenge.
This afternoon, we have talked about excellence in the moment. We rattled off Matt Hirschman's great list of accomplishments in a very recent stretch of time, and he's going to add a champion to his list if he can hold on here for the final lap.
On the back straightaway, Matt Hirschman guides the 60 car into turns 3 and 4. Checkered flag will be waving, and the Granite State Derby goes to Matt Hirschman tonight.
Hirschman is your winner. Excellent run for John McKennedy for the 2nd year in a row. Comes up with spot number 2. 3rd to Sammy Ramo. Gets his first top 5 at the Derby. Finished 6th last year with a 3rd place run this year. Solid run by car number 64. No, excuse me. Austin Beers finishes in 3rd. Sammy Ramo in 4th. And Ron Silk racing in memory and in tribute to his grandfather, who was lost at the Battle of Normandy in World War II. Sergeant John J. Silk Jr. comes home in 5th.
So Matt Hirschman has won the Granite State Derby, and we've seen a couple of things now. 5 different winners in the 2023 season for the NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour. Make it 7 different winners here in Whelen Modified Tour competition here at Lee USA Speedway. The Granite State Derby 175, and along the roof of that race car, joining him in victory lane in honor of Lance Corporal Michael E. Geary, who served in the United States Marine Corps, is on the roof of that number 60 car and is standing down in victory lane here today for the NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour. What a drive for Matt Hirschman. Took over the race lead from Doug Coby on lap number 3. And even with a round of pit stops, he never looked back, even with the challenge of a championship contender like John McKennedy, who has another strong day, comes up just a bit short, as he did a week ago, come home in 2nd. And then Austin Beers, your top 3 here tonight. Good, solid racing action here at Lee USA Speedway. Certainly did not disappoint. And Matt Hirschman here today is the champion of the 2nd annual Granite State Derby, 175 laps, and it was all Matt Hirschman here tonight. Boy, McKennedy did make it exciting, though, at the end of that one, giving it everything he had. Tracked him down, lap traffic, worked to the advantage of John McKennedy. It struggled a bit for Matt Hirschman. You have to wonder if McKennedy was able to get by Austin Beers a little bit sooner, if he would have an opportunity to get the win here today. But it'll end up about a 2nd behind Matt Hirschman, who won the race today out of Northampton, Pennsylvania, the PD Motorsports 60. He's about ready to get out of his race car, and we'll send it down trackside to victory lane here momentarily and hear from our race winner, Matt Hirschman, as they move the Kentucky Derby-inspired trophy down to victory lane in the celebration ceremony for this Pennsylvania-based team, about set to climb out and victorious. Matt Hirschman in the Hirschman family, climbing out down in victory lane. Let's hear from our winner down in victory lane.
Matt Hirschman, congratulations. You're Granite State Derby champion, and you drove the wheels off of this modified tonight. Walk me through how you just executed a perfect race.
Yeah, I mean, we just finally closed one. We were as good to start last year as this, but, it's just these races are tough to win, and I think we should have had 5 or 6 of them in recent years, but when the car is good enough to win, we didn't have a good pit stop, or when maybe the pit stop was better, maybe the driver wasn't good enough to win. But we just finally put it all together, a complete performance right from the drop of the green, and just couldn't be happier for the whole PD Motorsports team and all my guys. Great pit stop, and just an honor to be a part of an event like this, the pre-race festivities, and honoring all the Gold Star families for those that paid the ultimate, gave their life for our country and our freedom. And these holiday weekends are just great to be a part of motorsports, because there's just great racing going on across the whole country. I mean, obviously, not just the Indy 500 and the Coke 600, but there's been short track racing going on all week and still going on tomorrow. We're heading to Thunder Road to race tomorrow. So just really neat to be a part of Memorial Day weekend, and a salute to the fallen heroes, and just proud to get a win here for the team. We needed this. We deserved better than what the results have been, and a lot of that is on me. I take the most responsibility for that, but today we delivered.
We spoke pre-race, and you took a little bit of a chance on your setup, and you knew that 30, 40 laps in, you would find out if you had the car to beat. Did you get a little smile under that helmet when you hit that time and knew you had a dominant car tonight?
Yeah, I mean, it seemed really good to start, but I was just hoping it wasn't too good too soon. But it really stayed with me when I opened up the gap there on that first run, and then my guys put me right back out there. I had a little adjustment plan for one more stop if it came. I wasn't quite as satisfied as I was on the first set as I was on the second, but still, like I said, I had a little idea, I think, to get better for the finish, because obviously some guys improved after the pit stop. Some guys fell off. I don't know what happened to Seven, but he won last year and he was second early and fell off for whatever reason, and but McKennedy was closing at the end, and we were ready for another stop, but it didn't come. So glad it all worked out.
Matt Hirschman, you are a 2023 Granite State Derby champion.
So Matt Hirschman, the winner here today. John McKennedy had a good charge here at the end of the run to finish in second. Austin Beers was third, Sammy Ramu fourth, and Ronnie Silk was fifth. Doug Covey ended up sixth tonight. Jake Johnson, Kyle Bonsignor, Justin Bonsignor, and Tommy Catalano were the top 10 finishers here this evening. 11th, Brian Roby, Craig Lutz, Justin Brown, J.B. Fortin, and Tyler Ripkema rounded out our top 15. Matt Kimball, 16th, 17th for Woody Pitcat, Ken Hagee, 18th, Max Zackham, Melissa Fifield, and Anthony Nocella. That is your running order. Let's go down and hear from our second place finisher with Jacqueline Drake.
The number 79 of John McKennedy. Congratulations on a podium finish this evening. Matt Hirschman obviously dominating the race tonight. Did you have anything for him at the end?
I'd like to think so, but it's obviously hard to tell. A yellow would have been nice, but I'm sure he had a little bit left. He was just kind of maintaining that 3-4 car length lead the last 10 laps. But congratulations to Matt and their team. They've been doing a long time. Great driver. I want to thank everyone in the middle section terriers, my car owners, Tim, Cheryl, Lapine, my pit crew, my spotter, everyone. Long day today. We ran well. We were pretty much a top 5 car all day and ended up second.
Well, congratulations. Second place goes to John McKennedy.
Second place effort for John McKennedy. Continues to have the strength in his title defense for the Whelen Modified Tour. It's going to be a couple of weeks before we get back in action. It'll be on Saturday, June 10th at the Seekonk Speedway down in Massachusetts. Let's go back trackside and hear from our third place finisher. Jacqueline Drake is with Austin Beers.
The number 64 bringing it home in third place this evening. I was down at your pits in those final laps, and your crew was all eyes on the lap times just to see if you were gaining on the two that finished in front of you. Did you have anything left?
No, not really. We were struggling a little bit with forward drive there at the end, like most people were, I'm sure. But no, it's great. I really wanted to get in victory lane for specialist Brandon Martinez. That would have been really cool for him and his family were out here, so that was really cool. And I just wanted to have a good run tonight, and I rebound after last week, and it was good to get a third. So I'm pretty proud of our effort.
Strong finish tonight. Austin Beers going to bring it home in third place.
Thank you, Jacqueline, and your help down on pit road. Great job covering all the action here for the Modified Tour here today. That'll conclude the 5th race of the season for the NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour. We're in action just a couple of weeks from now. We'll make it down, as I mentioned, to the Seekonk Speedway down in Massachusetts for more action here today or this season as we roll on and continue to fight for race wins. Well, on behalf of NASCAR and the entire Whelen Modified Tour, I'm Joe Koss. Thanks for joining us here on Flow Racing. Still plenty to come, though, on the JDV Productions calendar as the season rolls on.
Yeah, thank you, Joe. It's been a pleasure to work with you again today. And Jacqueline,